The complete guide to grants for transitional housing and what you need to know. There are many different transitional housing grants for single moms and the homeless. These are grants available to people who need help transitioning out of homelessness and into a more stable living situation. A grant is a sum of money that an organization or government gives to someone in need. This money can be used for anything but is usually allocated to helping people in need. The term transitional housing refers to a type of housing that helps people transition from homelessness into more stable living situations. Transitional housing can be temporary or permanent, but it will always provide a safe place to live while getting back on their feet financially and emotionally. What is a transitional housing grant, and who can apply? A transitional grant is a grant that is given to people who are homeless and need help getting back on their feet. The purpose of the transitional housing grant is to provide an individual or family with a temporary place to stay while they work on finding permanent housing. The goal is to get people off the streets and into a safe, stable environment. To be eligible for a transitional housing grant, they must meet specific requirements. They must be homeless, have low income, or be at risk of being homeless shortly. They also must have an active case plan with the local public agency that the U.S. Department has approved of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. How much do they cost and how much does it cover? Transition homes are a place for homeless people to stay for a short period. They usually have a strict set of rules and regulations and are often reserved for those who need more assistance than just a shelter. Transition home grants provide access to safe housing for those in need. They offer transitional housing with strict rules and regulations, which can be hard on some people but beneficial to others. The cost is $1,000, but it's only available to low-income families who may have difficulty finding other forms of affordable housing in this expensive city. Individuals' average expenses in the homeless system, $1,634 to $2,308, are substantially lower than those households, $3,184 to $20,031, which often have higher daily fees and stay much longer. The 50% of people with the lowest homeless system expenses paid just 2 to 3% of overall system costs, whereas the 10% with the highest daily expenditures paid up to 83% of total expenses. The family's expense distribution is likewise lopsided but less so for individuals. For most people, the emergency shelter system is an adequate response to an urgent housing problem, but it is a costly solution for homeless families. More than half of those analyzed utilized just emergency shelters. However, this facility type's expenses account for less than one-third of overall individual costs. Individuals and families who stay in homeless services for a lengthy period suffer the most significant expenditures, giving the most excellent possibility for cost reductions in the homeless system. If these families had better access to permanent supportive housing, they might save money. Because mainstream services carry most service expenses, permanent supportive housing is less costly to the homeless system than transitional housing. Individuals and families who utilize homeless services more than once with large intervals between stays account for fewer than one-fifth of those surveyed. Although the expenses for this group are relatively lower than those for those who utilize homeless services regularly, the episodic homelessness of these families suggests that resources are not being used efficiently at the moment. These people and families have a high degree of engagement with the criminal justice system, albeit gaps were not explained solely by imprisonment. Most families with lengthy intervals also have children who are incarcerated. As a result, variations in home makeup occurs between stays. Who funds transitional housing? The Shelter and Transitional Housing Facilities Grant Program assists chronically homeless individuals in upgrading or constructing permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, and emergency shelters. The funding is open to local governments and non-profit groups. Given this, who foots the bill for temporary housing? Also, how can you begin a transitional housing program? What is the best way to begin a transitional housing program? Determine the population to be targeted. To begin, spend some time studying the needs in your community. Seek and get funding. Collect community support. Locate a transitional housing facility. Purchase inventory and supplies. Make rules and guidelines. Instill life skills in children. You may start creating a transitional housing program that will best suit the needs of your community with thorough study and preparation. You can help people move from homelessness to permanent housing by providing secure homes and supporting services. What are the requirements of receiving one? Transitional housing grants are aimed to help people or families who need more extensive assistance services to get permanent housing. The emphasis is on rushing to permanent housing. However, the periods of stay are adjustable up to 24 months and adapted to the specific demands of each family. Clients must be homeless specifically, unsheltered, in a temporary housing program, or on the streets, to be eligibly escaping domestic abuse. In general, the program must target groups who often need more assistance or assistance who face more housing challenges. Potentially targeted demographics include children's families, individuals leaving care systems, for example, prisons, drug abuse treatment institutions, and mental health facilities. Those escaping domestic violence. People in rehabilitation from drug addiction. People suffering from mental illnesses. Women who are pregnant. Unaccompanied minors. Furthermore, the chosen applicant commits not to enroll customers into their program until they have gone through a coordinated admission intake/assessment interview with the community system of communal entrance for the housing network. Forming community cooperation and partnerships, both formal and informal, is an essential component of the curriculum applicants are urged to prepare ahead of time. Utilize existing community resources creatively to offer program services. Applicants must show collaborations with current internal and external services to their organization and within the larger community to make the most meaningful use of available resources, avoid duplication of services, and broaden the range of alternatives available to individuals served. Partnerships are essential to improve access to physical health and disability support services and trauma assistance treatment for mental illness and drug misuse. Additional collaborations to address fundamental client requirements such as government benefit applications, food assistance, etc. Transportation, clothes, and toiletries are all welcomed as well. Successful candidates would ideally have experience/knowledge in the following areas. Providing services to homeless individuals or families in a residential setting emphasizes prevention. The focus is on lowering the obstacles to obtaining and maintaining permanent housing. Housing and case management services are being provided to the target population. Capability to serve individuals with medical conditions, developmental or physical disabilities, behavioral health problems, or substance abuse problems and refer to a varied group of medical practitioners in the community. Partnerships with mainstream resources, services, and information providers have benefits. Knowledge about Washington State's Homeless Management Information System. HMIS. Knowledge of the Shalon Douglas Community Housing Network is required for coordinated entrance system. Applicants should offer a personnel structure/level that best matches the proposal's objectives. Housing first and low barrier concepts should be taught to all program employees. In addition, case managers in programs should be trained in and actively use evidence-based client engagement strategies such as trauma-informed care and motivational interviewing. How to find your dream home with transitional housing grants. A home is one of the most important investments you will ever make. To find a home that fits your needs and budget, you need to know what steps to take to make this happen. The first step is to determine how much money you want or can afford for a down payment. You may be eligible for a grant from the government that could assist with paying for your down payment. We will assist you in finding your ideal house while also providing grants to aid with your budgetary requirements. The links enumerated below provide information on supportive housing and homelessness. 1. Virginia Housing Alliance. The Virginia Housing Alliance, VHA, arose from the combination of the Virginia Coalition to End Homelessness, VCEH, and the Virginia Housing Coalition Information Services, VCIS. They advocate for increasing housing options, the abolition of homelessness in the Commonwealth, and capacity development and education. 2. Assisted living facility. To find an assisted living home, use the Virginia Department of Social Services search engine. 3. Virginia Supportive Housing. They assist thousands of people to recover their lives while saving communities millions of dollars each year by combining affordable housing with tailored case management services. They assist communities in saving money on temporary shelters, food programs, emergency rooms, and medical services, prisons, and other public resources, in addition to encouraging long-term stability for their clients. VSH helps around 1,500 people each year, including 400 veterans. More than 95% of people they help with permanent supportive housing do not return to homelessness due to their evidence-based approach. 4. A Guide to Housing and Mortgages for Low-Income Earners. This resource is intended to assist low-income people in understanding their alternatives for locating affordable housing and obtaining a mortgage. The reader should have a better understanding of the following after this guide. The benefits and drawbacks of house ownership for low-income people. How to decide whether or not the property you are interested in is indeed inexpensive. The procedure for locating, negotiating, and closing on a new house. The obligation for incidental budgets. Considerations for homelessness and home ownership. Programs that may assist you in realizing your goal of house ownership. 5. Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services Housing Section. Includes a map indicating where eligible persons may have access to specific housing resources to assist adults in the settlement agreement population who wish to live in their own house in the community with assistance. 6. PATH Homeless Assistance Program. PATH, or Projects for Assistance in Transition from Homelessness, is a federal, state, and local partnership that offers awareness and support for people with serious mental illness who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. Community-based outreach, mental health, drug addiction, case management, and other supporting services, as well as a limited range of housing services, are all available via PATH. PATH may give one-time financial support, such as payment of 1 month's rent to avoid eviction, aid with the first month's rent, a security deposit to assist a client in obtaining housing, or other relevant expenditures, depending on the resources of the local program. The Federal Center for Mental Health Services, which is part of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, is one of 8 public health service organizations of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that administers the nationwide PATH program. The Stuart B. McKinney Homeless Assistance Amendments Act of 1990 established the PATH program, reauthorized multiple times since then. The Virgin Islands are a group of islands off the coast of PATH services are provided through more than 500 local groups around the nation. The Housing and Homelessness Resource Network of SAMHSA aids states, territories, and local groups that deliver PATH programs by providing training and technical assistance. 7. New Hope Housing, Northern Virginia. New Hope Housing is a nonprofit organization dedicated to discovering innovative and long-term solutions to break the cycle of homelessness by assisting homeless men, women, and children. Each of these triumphs contributes to a better, healthier community for everyone. 8. Pathway Homes, Inc. Northern Virginia. Pathway Homes is a committed partner in the community's continuous efforts to prevent and eradicate homelessness. Adults with serious mental illnesses and co-occurring problems, such as drug misuse or intellectual disability, may get assistance in one of 2 ways. Individuals with a history of homelessness are placed in supportive housing. They assist individuals in maintaining their housing by providing support services. 9. Virginia Fair Housing Office. When it comes to renting an apartment, buying a house, getting a mortgage, or buying homeowners insurance, federal and state fair housing laws protect individuals against discrimination. Property managers, owners, landlords, real estate brokers, banks, savings institutions, credit unions, insurance companies, mortgage lenders, and appraisers are all subject to fair housing rules. 10. Virginia Rent and Mortgage Relief Program. During the coronavirus pandemic, the Virginia Rent Relief Program, RRP, is meant to assist and guarantee housing stability throughout the Commonwealth. The RRP may support rent payments to qualifying homes depending on funds available and family need. Financial help for past due rent payments will be available starting April 1, 2020, with the possibility of renewal dependent on funds availability and the household's need for extra assistance and continuous eligibility. This help does not have to be paid back. 11. Diversion First. Diversion First was implemented because of the following reasons. Mental health difficulties have landed far too many individuals in prison. Mental health care should not be provided in prison. The detention of persons with intellectual/developmental disabilities must be avoided. To act as soon as possible to de-escalate the situation and prevent arrest. It is ethical to provide therapy to those who need it rather than incarceration as the default option. It is less expensive for individuals to obtain therapy than to spend time in prison. The treatment gives individuals hope by assisting them in recovering and regaining control of their life. 1 out of every 5 Americans has a mental disease. It is not a criminal to suffer from a mental illness. They aim to respond to the Ad Hoc Police Practices Review Commission's recommendations. The Board of Supervisors voted to endorse the National Stepping Up campaign to decriminalize mental illness. The purpose is to intervene as much as possible to give an evaluation, therapy, or other necessary assistance. People who need diversion may also suffer from a drug use issue, which often happens with mental illness. Diversion First is a more cost-effective and efficient use of public funds aimed to avoid recurrent interactions with the criminal justice system, enhance public safety, create a healthier community, and prevent repeat confrontations with the criminal justice system. 12. National Low-Income Housing Coalition. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition is committed to creating racially and socially equitable public policy that guarantees that individuals with low incomes have access to excellent housing that is both accessible and affordable in the areas of their choosing. These are some resources that might help you discover your ideal house. Transitioning from homelessness into your own home. The shelter is a basic human need, but many people are out of reach. For some, it can be hard to imagine what life would be like if they were to get their place. A Transition Home Grant will assist with the transition from homelessness into your own home. This grant will help pay for housing and living expenses during the first year of living independently. Rapid access to permanent housing provides people with a fresh start after years of adversity. Such access also offers a stable platform that can aid in rehabilitation. Regardless, learning to recognize that negotiating a new situation necessitates recognizing where individuals are coming from and a notion of where they will feel they are on the right track. The mundane activities of daily life are often observed yet ignored. However, how individuals engage in their everyday activities has a significant impact on their health and well-being. Everyday activities like eating a meal, spending time with friends, or walking the dog are critical to developing a meaningful habit. However, the individual relevance of these routines varies by person and is determined by temporal and environmental circumstances. Preparing meals, for example, may be a delight for one person but labor for another, depending on personal preferences and the time and environment in which it is done. Because home is formed via habituation or daily routines, an occupational perspective is critical to understanding tenancy sustainment after homelessness. Changes in routines, hobbies, and time usage may help shift the unpredictability of people's lives when they are homeless. Being housed opens up options for professions, but psychological worries, economic realities, and societal structures all impact their adoption and involvement. When a tenancy is agreed upon, the essential step of making a home becomes critical to enabling a sense of belonging. The process is supported by 3 strategies: placing your mark on it, seeing a new self, and living life. Putting your mark on it is an active process of modifying the physical surroundings to feel more like home. Seeing a new self forms an identity that corresponds to that of a renter and the expectations that come with it. Living life refers to maintaining a constant routine that allows for the effective continuation of a tenancy. When renters effectively establish a home, they have a sense of belonging or a sense of connection to place both to the accommodation and the area, and transitional housing programs seem to assist families in achieving several critical objectives, such as retaining stable housing and addressing drug problems. Longer stays in transitional housing may also provide families with the chance to build skills that seem to pay off in a greater likelihood of regular work.